Welcome to another episode of the CC Podcast Conversations, where inspiring Christians share their faith-filled stories. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. This helps push our content to a broader audience. Are you new to listening? Check out our other podcasts. First, the CC Podcast Daily Dose Devotions, where we're walking through the Bible, focusing on short clips of Scripture. Second is the CC Broadcast, where our weekly radio programming is archived. These podcasts are available wherever you're listening or at ChristianCrusaders.org. Okay, let's get started with today's episode. Here's our host, Matt Reisetter, the Executive Director of Christian Crusaders.
Melting.
All right. You guys having fun yet? All right. Matt Reisetter. I also lead a ministry called Christian Crusaders. This will be hosted on the Christian Crusaders Conversations podcast. We'll have it out sometime next week. So stay tuned for that. We'll share it on the Cedar Falls Bible Conference page. I've got several questions. Some of them are going to be deeper. Some of them are going to be lighter. We might get to some questions from you all. First of all, Scott, thank you so much for saying yes to our invitation.
Oh, it's been fun. Thank you guys for being so kind and generous and welcoming. It was a blast. Thank you.
Lady ran up to me during the break, said, "What are you going to ask him?" I said, "Well, I've got a few ideas." She said, "Ask him when he started doing the flip." He was the only one who did the flip back when he did it. So talk about the flip.
Okay, so backflips are illegal in competition. There was a guy I skated with when my mean coach, the one that scared me. He had a student that year. I won the juniors, and his other student won the senior men's championship, and he had a backflip in his program. Well, he went to the world championships, and even though he was great at everything he did, they ended up taking points off of his program because he did a backflip. So they sort of got organized around, they don't want anything like that in competition. So all the years that I competed, it was illegal. And then I went into the ice capades, and I noticed there was a few guys that did the backflip. And I saw the response of the crowd, and I was like, well, I got to get me one of those, because like, that's really great. And so I took a year, and the first guy to ever do a backflip was a guy named Skippy Baxter. He skated at the time of Dick Button. Dick Button was an unbeatable champion in competitive skating, and so most of the guys that were in Dick Button's time, they knew they'd never beat him, went into the ice shows to make money. And so he was thinking, he was kind of a crazy guy. He said, if I go backwards really fast and put my toe on the ice, I bet I could get over on a backflip. Honestly, that was his whole preparation, everything. And he did it. And he was the first guy to ever do a backflip. And the last backflip that Skippy did was on his 70th birthday. Yeah. So that'll be a record that doesn't get beaten anytime soon. But so Skippy gave me my first lesson, and basically it was just stick your toe on the ice and see what happens. And it's like, no! So I went to a gymnastics coach, and I spent a year learning it off the ice. And then a couple of the ice show comedians helped me get it on the ice. And we were in Salt Lake City, and it was ice capades. And I put it at the beginning of my program because I wanted to do it on fresh legs. I didn't want to do it on tired legs where I could make a mistake and land on my head. And so I remember the first one I did, I went in, the adrenaline was just pumping. And I took off for the backflip, and it went up like nobody's business. It went up so high, I never thought it was going to come down. And the second my feet hit the ice, I heard a response from the audience that told me, you are never leaving the house without this bad boy. You're taking this everywhere you go. And so I started doing it in every one of my performances. And for whatever reason, I'm known more for that than anything else, I think. And a lot of people thought I invented it, which I didn't. I just saw other people doing it. And if they want to think that I invented it, that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to, but I'm being honest when I say I wasn't the guy that invented it. But it was something that saw me through my whole professional career. And there's another story that I can tell if you got a minute. So I decided when Max was born, my redhead, was born in 2008. And I thought, I want to see, like I was having sort of a healthy midlife crisis, I went on the Today Show with a couple other guys to talk Matt Lauer off the ledge because he was going through a midlife crisis. And he said, how do you do it? And I go, well, I didn't do it in a normal way. He goes, how did you do your midlife crisis? I go, I got married, became a father, and was baptized. And I go, that one will serve you better. So anyway, I came back to skating in 2010 to see if I could do it. And I'm training every day, and I'm in the gym, and I'm in a cab with a friend of mine who used to be an executive at Madison Square Garden. And we're talking. He goes, how's the training? And I go, I'm getting there. It's not easy to come back after 5 years. And he said, how's the backflip? And I said, Bobby, I'm 51 years old. Why would I ever think about doing a backflip? And he goes, sorry, it's just, when was the last time you did a show without one? And it was like, okay, expectation. So I called my trainer and I said, find me a gymnastics coach today. I have to learn a backflip, and I got 2 weeks before the show. So I had 2 weeks to get over on a backflip and put it in the program, and I knew exactly where it was going to go if I could get it back. And so I'm working with this gymnastics coach who is my age, and the whole time we're working together, he's asking me, are you sure you want to do this? Not encouragement. It was like, are you crazy? And so he was there when I finally did it on the ice, and I got over by myself, and we put it in the program. And so I go out to do this program. I haven't skated in 5 years. It's a cancer fundraiser for my foundation. And I go out and I land my first jumps, and everything is great. Now I produce, direct, I publicize, sponsors, everything with this show. So I have a lot of responsibility. And now I'm skating in it again. And I go and I land my first jump, and it's really nice. And then there's a little combination of jumps. And at the end of the combination of jumps, I felt something familiar. And I fell, and there was a camera crew in the corner that was kind of recording this whole process. And so I get up, and it was like, when I get up, I realized my legs are gone because I was exhausted from doing all this work. And I had to go all the way to the end and then come right back to where I was sitting on drop-dead 51-year-old legs on a 2-week-old backflip and try not to die. And so if you ever saw me skate and you ever saw me do this, that means I'm really tired, I've got nothing left, and I've got to get some oxygen in my lungs and some blood through my legs because I got nothing. And so I did one of these, and I looked square into the face of William Shatner. And I thought to myself, now there's something you don't see every day. And it made me laugh. And so it just broke the spell of fear, and it put me into a sense of almost like joy. And so I got around, I picked up all the speed I could pick up, and I had nothing left. And I threw this backflip, my feet hit the ice, and 8,500 people pushed me to the finish line because I had nothing left. And it was really exciting. So at the end of the night, I go backstage, and the camera crew is there, and they say, do you have time for a quick interview? And I said, of course. I'm just on this euphoric high of just doing this backflip and getting this response from the audience. And they went, you fell. And I said, I did. And they go, that must have been really embarrassing. And I thought about it for a second. I go, actually, it's not. And they go, come on. And I go, no, it's not. It kind of represents the whole thing. We fall down, we get up. And we fall down, we fail, we get up, we got to face the next thing, no matter what it looks like, no matter how it feels. We got to face it. We just got to go and not live in fear, but live in intention. And so, yeah, it kind of represents the whole reason I did this in the first place, is to see what I could do and how far I could do it. So that was the last year I did backflips. And that one was memorable. It's funny because I have a picture in my office of that backflip. My head was only about that high off the ice. So not the same as Salt Lake, that's for sure.
Your best sports achievement is Olympic gold medal, right? I mean, no brainer.
Ish.
Okay. What else would you?
No, I think the biggest achievement has been longevity.
Okay.
The 4 years of going undefeated, which I'm last place guy, and I'm telling you, I'm the least likely person to ever have won a gold medal in the Olympics. But when I look over that 4-year period, It was a constant reinvention. It was fighting imposter syndrome. It was feeling like I was worthy of it. It was holding off guys that were really starting to pass me technically. And so the longevity aspect of the competitive career was one thing, but then to be a male figure skater in 1984, wanting to do a professional career, there was no path. And so I had to kind of make it. And so I did 2 years with the Ice Capades, and I learned so much, and I was really dependable, and I skated at the top of my game, and I was very good at press calls and things like that. And so that's where IMG said, let's try doing a tour. And so they gave me another chance. And so my whole professional career was 20 years long. And I thought if I skated 2 to 4 years, I was fooling a lot of people. But the longevity thing means more, I think, than any one moment. Yeah. Because and this is another conversation, but my Olympic gold medal lived in a brown paper bag at the bottom of my underwear drawer for 8 years until I could get rid of it.
What's that about?
Well, when I came back from the Olympics, I trained in relative isolation. It was just me tracing eights. It was just me doing long programs, just me doing short programs. It was just me training, right? And then during the day, I'd go home and I'd read or watch soap operas or listen to music or something, just to rest up for my next training. So my whole life was just about training. And then, you sort of become this Olympic gold medalist. And then now I'm coming back from the Olympics, and somebody sends a jet to pick me up in Chicago to fly me back to Denver on a private jet, right? Which I've never been on a private jet before. So I'm on a private jet. They fly me to Denver, and they meet me with fire trucks and everything, and there's going to be a parade into downtown Denver, and Larimer Square had 5,000 people in it. It was like my life completely flipped upside down. And then the next day, the governor invited me to go into his office, and I thought it was a photo op because that's kind of what politicians do, but it wasn't. He shut the door behind me, and we sat down, and he just wanted to talk to me like someone who wanted to pour into another person. And he said, "Have you ever heard of the hometown hero syndrome?" And I said, "No, what is that?" And he said, "It's kind of like the best example he could think of was when the high school quarterback throws the bomb at the end of the game to win the state championship, and everybody carries him off the field on their shoulders, and he thinks his whole life is going to be just like that. And when it's not, they're devastated." He said, "I just don't want that to happen to you." He goes, "You seem like a nice young man." He goes, "I want you to enjoy the fruits of your labor, but know that someday it's not going to be parades and private jets. It's just going to be life." And then that week, having had that conversation, I went to, I was my orthopedic surgeon. I couldn't afford health care, so he would treat me for free when I got injured. And he was in charge of the Paralympic team. And they competed in January, but they were having their banquet after the Winter Olympics. So they asked if I would speak at the banquet. "Wear your medal and wear your team uniform." I said, "Okay." So I walk in my team uniform. They all had the same team uniform. I walked in with my medal. They all had the same medal. And I'm looking at people without sight or hearing or limbs, and I'm able-bodied. And I go, "What did I do?" I go, "This thing, there's something wrong with this." And so I took my medal and I put it in a brown paper bag and I shoved it at the bottom of my underwear drawer. And there was something about it that offended me. And it wasn't until I came to faith that I realized that those types of things can become idols. And I saw so many Olympians after that got so stuck in the moment that they suffered hometown hero syndrome. And they would fail in relationships. So many people I knew that had success at the Olympics. The guy that won the downhill the same day that I won the gold medal, Bill Johnson, his life was a complete disaster afterwards. He just made every single mistake he could make based on his fame and his desire to accumulate riches. And I realized that this thing is not a destination, it's a launching pad if you want to do it that way, but you don't get stuck in the moment. And so it was, I didn't want to get stuck. I said, I want to go that way. I don't want to get stuck back here. I want to go that way. I want to keep going that way. I want to build something. And so I just had ambition to grow something new And then I got inducted into the World Figure Skating Hall of Fame, and they asked if I want to put anything on display at the museum. And I said, how about everything? And they go, what? I go, no, everything, everything. From the first medal I ever won, which was second place in 1968 in sub-juvenile men, all the way through the last World Championship. They just took everything and everything, everything. So I don't have anything in my home. My kids never grew up with memorabilia around, and so I gave them everything. And it was when I just surrendered my life to the Lord, I just realized that those are idols. And they're descriptors. It's like I get introduced as an Olympic gold medalist, that's fine. But there's so much more.
Yeah.
And to get stuck in that moment diminishes everything that comes after.
Yeah.
And that's what idols do.
Yeah.
Any kind of idols, whatever they are.
Yeah.
You know, and they come in all shapes and sizes and forms and descriptions. And if we're aware of them, you know, hopefully we can fend it off.
That's really cool. That's cool, isn't it? Yeah. So I was asking you, is your best achievement the gold medal? You said longevity. What I was going to follow that up with, I was assuming you're like, yeah, gold medal is my best achievement, but we got off on a trail there, which I'm glad we did. Tell us about something like a sports moment or a figure skating moment that no one really knows about, but like that, is your greatest moment or a great moment that's not a high-profile one, like in practice or nailing something for the first time or qualifying for this team, or when you finally got, you know, from last to second and third to last? Or
Well, 10 years after Sarajevo, I've been a pro for 10 years, and they decided that they wanted to open up the sport to have professionals return to competition. So they had the 92 Olympics were in Albertville, France, and then 2 years later, because they wanted to leapfrog the Olympics, they didn't want to have the Winter Olympics and the Summer Olympics the same year every time. They wanted to go, you know, alternate years or every 2 years. And so Lillehammer, they were going to invite professionals to reinstate as eligible amateur athletes to compete in these Olympics. And a lot of people took advantage of that. And I'm thinking, well, can I do it? I don't know if I can do it, because I've been pro for so long that whole idea of competing on ice in front of 9 judges, it just felt so weird and foreign to me. But I decided that I wanted to see if I could get back in the best shape I've ever been in my life. And so I started working out off the ice and on the ice, off the ice, mostly off the ice. I was doing plyometrics where I'd be able to jump from that up onto the stage. I mean, it was crazy, the stuff that I was doing. And I was so sore that I couldn't even hardly tie my skates. And I'm like, what am I doing? This is crazy. And I did that all summer into the fall, and I couldn't land a jump. I couldn't do anything. I was like, this was stupid. And then I decided, okay, I'm strong enough. I'm just going to take it to the ice. And all of a sudden, things just started happening. I started landing jumps that I hadn't landed since 1984. I still kept the hardest jump I ever did, but all the other jumps in between. And then I started feeling really strong, and so I started developing all these routines that were harder than anything I've ever done as a pro before. And Dick Button was producing this competition called the Gold Championship. And the idea was to have the last 3 Olympic gold medalists compete head-to-head to see who's the gold champion, right? So in the men's event, it was to be Brian Boitano, Victor Petrenko, and Alexei Romanov, who won in 1994. And this was, you know, again, this is 10 years after the Olympics. And I'm sitting there chomping at the bit saying, I'm skating as well as I've ever skated in my life. I'd really want to get invited to this thing, but I was an alternate because they only took 3. And so Alexei Romanov said, I am Russian. I am going to live with my mother, and I'm going to stay competitive. And we're like, okay. So I'm waiting for it. And Dick Button, Scott, do you want to compete? And I said, I'd love to, because, you know, he didn't think I was going to be competitive. And so I said, this is great. And I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. Because of the nature of this competition, the prize money was a little bit higher than usual. So all I had to do was hear the end of my music, and I could make $120,000.
Okay.
So now I really want to go, right? Because, like, that could pay a lot of bills. That could see me through. But if you won, it was $200,000. So I'm thinking, well, Boitano's going to win because he's winning worlds every single night. He does any kind of thing. So I go, okay. So I go out, and for whatever reason, I skated as well as I've ever skated ever in the technical program. I landed 4 triples, a lot of energy. The other 2 guys were skating to kind of slower music to kind of set up their jumps better. I was skating like in the mood, and just going like crazy, just doing all these jumps and footwork and everything. And just, I'm there to win the crowd. I didn't care about winning the championship. I just wanted to win the crowd. And I get done with the technical program, and I'm sitting in the dressing room, and the results come back, and they go, you won the technical program. I'm like, how? I say, that's not even possible. So I won the technical program by 1/10 of a point. Wow. So that means I skate last in the next program, which is the artistic program. Now, Brian was skating to Music of the Night, from Phantom of the Opera, and Victor Petrenko was skating to opera, a slow, beautiful opera piece. I'm skating to Aerosmith, Walk This Way.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Let's go.
So they hear all this, and I come out, the crowd starts going ballistic, and it's like, oh, this is so good. And I went out, and I set up triple-ettes, which is the hardest jump I did, and I go, if I land this, I'm going to win this competition because I'm going to sell this thing so hard that it's just going to be the greatest night of my life. That's awesome. And so I land the triple-ettes, and the second I land the triple-ettes, I'm doing this, right?
Oh, yeah.
I go, come on, let's go. The audience just bit hard, and then I did a triple toe, and then I went around, and then I did backflip, and it was this crazy number, and this ovation would not end. And I realized standing there watching the marks come up that this was the best night of skating I've ever had in my life. Wow. The best complete night of skating, because every time I competed against Boitano, I would make a mistake and I'd hand it to him. It was like he intimidated me, even though coming through, he's like a little brother to me. So I won the competition. I stayed up all night until dawn because I didn't want that day to end. It was just one of those things. And so, it was just one of those special nights, but crazy how things can happen when you just put yourself in a position where things like that can happen.
I didn't answer that question, ask the question very clearly, but that's the exact answer.
You want it from the other thing.
That's the answer that I wanted, and I didn't ask very clearly for. That's a really good story. Think about your mom and the impact that she'd had on your life. And so let's back up, or let's do this in reverse order. So you're in Cedar Falls, Iowa, 1,000 people in the room, 200 people watching online. You pin the needle for the 105th Cedar Falls Bible Conference in terms of viewership and attendance. You're one of the poster pictures on our brochure, on the billboard. You've got this, now back it up a little bit more, like this really notorious commentating career. You're like NBC Sports royalty. It's NBC, right?
Please tell them that.
Yeah.
I don't think they necessarily, I don't know.
And you did what you just said. You back it up to 84 gold medal. I mean, obviously you've thought a lot of times, like, what would your mom think? I mean, if she walked in here right now, if she walked in to turn the TV on when you're doing Olympic commentary, walked into your gold medal, any of this stuff, like she put, like you said, she was the one who made it possible for you to do this.
She always believed, She, I wasn't very good at the figure eight things, and so I'd take a test and I'd fail. Take it again, fail. Take it again, fail. I hated figures. I just didn't like them. And as I said earlier, they didn't like me back. And so when I finally passed a test, and I think it was charity, because if I didn't pass a test, I couldn't compete at that level that year. And that competition was the next week, so it was like right at the deadline. She would walk me through the neighborhood to all our neighbors and saying, this guy passed his test with flying colors. I don't know what that means, but flying colors. And I believe, someday we're going to go to the Olympics. Wow. And I'm looking at her going, based on what? I mean, I'm terrible at these things, and they're important, and I don't like them, and they don't like me back. How am I ever going to make the Olympics? I'm not that good. And she always thought someday we're going to the Olympics. And so in 1980, I was 4th at nationals the year before, and then the year after I lost my mom, I was 3rd, so I went down to 4th the next year, and it was a longer story, but the judges apologized to me after the competition, saying, "Yeah, you probably should have been 3rd." And I was like, "Well, I'm not, so that's okay. That's all right. Next year's the important year." And they go, "Yeah." So I knew that I had money in the bank with the judges. I just needed to deliver the goods. And so my coach that I won the lottery to go, Dorothy Hamill's coach, after the 4th place finish, he didn't really have much interest in me anymore. He thought I was sliding, and so we had a meeting, and I just said, "Hey, I know this year didn't go as planned, but you saved my skating life. And even though the sponsors have told me that if I wanted to go to Philadelphia and take from Don Laws, a coach that Carlo Fassi, the Olympic coach, he goes, yeah, he goes, I can go to him, or if you want me to stay, I'll stay because I owe you, and I'll stay if you want me to stay." And he said, "Well, Don is a friend of mine, and somebody I like very much. I respect him. If you wanted to go to Don, I wouldn't hurt you politically." And he never said stay. And so I moved to take from Don Laws, and Don just introduced a whole different style of training, accountability, and it was like, this is yours. I'm not gonna force you to do anything. I'll work you hard, and I'm gonna teach you, but it's yours. If you don't wanna do it, if you wanna go out and party with your friends, or if you wanna, skip sessions, if you wanna do all those things, then have at it. I probably will lose interest in you over time, but if you're in it to win it, I'm in it to win it. Let's do this together, and we can change the world. And I'm like, okay. So I turned it up a whole 5 more notches, and starting that fall, I won my first international competition ever, and then went to nationals and came in 3rd, and that put me on the Olympic team. And I was like, wow, my mom was right. How did she know? But it's like, then you're an Olympian for life. It's like, but when you're 3rd on a 3-man team, basically with no chance of medaling, you're a tourist. And being a tourist, there's no pressure to win. All the pressure's on, like, from the United States was on Charlie Tickner, because he won the World Championships 2 years before. If you didn't medal, blah, blah, blah. I'm sitting there going, this is great. I'm going to hang out at the Olympic Village. I'm going to meet everybody. I'm going to love Lake Placid. I'm just going to have the best time. And I did, and I skated really well, and the results were phenomenal. And then after that, it was sort of, okay, let's go. Yeah. And Carlo would end up saying publicly that letting me go was the worst mistake he ever made in his coaching life. And then I'd say, Carlo, don't feel bad. I never would have done it with you. No, I'm just saying. Don had a whole different gear, yeah, and a whole different approach. And he goes, I'm not here to do it for you. And it was just like, you're right. And Don he was so funny. He was very tall, very handsome guy. Like, women would just, swoon over this guy. Gray hair, very nice, gray little pencil-thin mustache, type of thing. And he had, like, every time I'd complain, it's like, oh man, I'm hurting today. And he said, the absence of pain is death. Suck it up. I go, okay. And so I'd be in a lesson, I'd be, he goes, silence is the absence of sound. Oh, you want me to shut up? Okay. He had all these funny little sayings all the time, and it was just the perfect environment for me to thrive. And together, at the Olympics, I don't think he said 4 words to me the whole time. He was just there. And we talked years later, and I was like, how come you were so quiet in Sarajevo? And he goes, I was so scared I was going to mess it up. He goes, I didn't want to touch it. I just said, you do your thing. We've come all this way. You know what you're doing. I'm just not going to I'm just going to be here for you. And so I was on a leash this long when I went to him, and by the time we got to the Olympics, the leash was just on the ground. He wasn't holding it anymore. Yeah.
Maybe I misheard you, but when you were talking up here, obviously when you talked about losing your mom, and then also when you were talking about winning the gold medal, it sounded like there was like a catch in your voice, like you still get a little emotional when you talk about it. Is that true? And what's the emotion about?
The emotion is like, the first time I met this guy, he helped me with Finish First, the book. Donald Miller, the author Donald Miller. Mm-hmm. He, first time I met him, he goes, okay, I got to know, what's it like to win an Olympic gold medal? And I go, complicated. He's like, what do you mean complicated? I go, well, I was in Learn to Skate 17 years before that moment. And everything kind of leads up to that. Every day is in preparation for the next competition, the next opportunity, the next win. If you're lucky, you win. I go, but when you're standing on that podium, there's a sense of relief that, you didn't mess it up, right? There's a sense of pride that this isn't an individual achievement. This is something that you're there to represent your entire country. This is our moment. This isn't mine. This is ours. So it's overwhelming in that way. And then you step into, but my mom didn't get to see it. Mm-hmm. And that's hard because she sacrificed she never bought herself clothes. She never did anything for herself. It all went to her kids, especially more went to me than anybody else. And that there's a whole level of guilt with that as well. And then the idea that, you're standing up there and it's like, now I've achieved everything that there is to achieve. And you look over the edge of the podium and it looks like you're looking over a cliff. Because who am I now? Like, why do I get up in the morning? Because you're so programmed to train for these moments that what else is there to train for? I don't know who I am. And then there's this dizziness that comes with that. But the main thing is standing up there, you come to a really vivid realization that nothing that I'm experienced could have happened had it not been for dozens and dozens of people that just poured into it. And my sponsors, she became like my mom. After my mom passed, she was just there for me all the time. And just the people that just kept pouring into it and pouring into it and pouring into it. It was just like, I'm the only one standing here, but I felt like almost an imposter, that it's like, it's not me, it's all of these people made this thing happen. And I feel stupid standing up here accepting all of it when it wasn't just me. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's great.
So it's complicated.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've got a bunch of other questions about ice skating and sports and all that, but I want to turn the corner a little bit on this. One of the themes of this conference that has came up, and it hasn't really been planned, but just that each believer is called in a specific way to represent Christ in a specific way, to do work for his kingdom in a specific way that's unique to us. And we're all on this journey trying to figure out exactly what is that role that I'm supposed to play. What is my lane? And so, obviously, having the success that you've had in athletics has opened doors for you. And it sounds like a lot of that happened prior to you becoming a believer, or maybe before you got real serious about your faith. And so some of the doors that were open, I imagine, you originally didn't see as a platform for kingdom stuff, but now you're part of the kingdom. And so how do you view your role for, not for a bunch of things that you do maybe, but just specifically for the Lord? What are you doing here to serve him, or what platform has he given you for what purpose?
And that's the question. We don't know. We don't know until we're standing at the feet of Jesus, whether we figured it out or not, I could have taken so many lefts that maybe my whole plan was something else. I can't imagine what that could be. Mm-hmm. But, it's, so much about faith is believing in the unseen, mm-hmm. right? And, we feel his presence. There are times when we really feel his presence. And there are other times where we feel like, where are you? And it's the more I think that I've cleaved onto the Lord, the more I feel like when he's not present, I feel his, I don't know, I can't do this. It's like even standing in front of all these people tonight, all I do is pray. It's like, Lord, I can't do this without you, nor do I want to. Give me the words, and just take over. I'm not smart enough to do this. Just take over. And, in this position, if I'm meant to touch somebody in the audience, I don't know who that is, and maybe I'm speaking to 1,000 people, but maybe I'm speaking to 1 or 2 specifically who just need to hear whatever he's giving me. So it's, I try to, I get that question from people a lot, and I got it a couple times tonight. It's like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, am I faithful in my walk? And it's like, well, yeah, but so many times it's just in those moments, if you feel an inkling, like you're supposed to do something, like I would say, no. Now I'm like, yeah, let's go. I was standing behind a lady. I'm all about 8s. I told you before my birthday's 828, but my birth year is 58, so it's always 8. I traced figure 8s. Every time I turn around, there's an 8.
Your hotel room added up to 8.
Every time. Every single time. Like when I went in for the brain surgery that went really bad, I'm checking into a hotel, my room number was 1313. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's not good. And so we go through this whole adventure of all these devastations of this tumor, this aneurysm, and if it explodes, my life's going to be completely different, and how are we going to take care of this? And there's a thing, and I'm looking at it, and so we go, okay, we slowed it down, but we didn't stop it. I go, give me my phone. They give me the phone. I call the Cleveland Clinic because they cured me of cancer, and they've seen me through a lot of things. I should have a punch card from the Cleveland Clinic. I don't. But I said, can you guys fix me? And they said, when can you get here? And I go, well, it's Friday. I can get there tomorrow. And they go, no, we're not doing much on the weekend. Why don't you fly in on Sunday? We'll see you on Monday. So I get there on Monday, and everywhere we went were 8s. 8s everywhere. Like, oh, you're going to be on the 8th floor of the S building in room 8-4 or 8-8 or 8-2. When I went in for the treatment, I'm in a recovery bay, basically post surgery, and my wife comes in. She asks, "Where's my husband?" And the lady said, "He wanted me to tell you that you should know." And so she went to bay 8, and I'm in bay 8. And so we're going through this whole thing, and I was supposed to be released on August 7th, but I went blind in my right eye, and so they had to figure that out, and so I was released on August 8th, 8/8. So we get home, and my wife and I are just like beside ourselves, just thinking what an adventure this was, and just like it tore her apart. She really suffered. I was in better shape than she was by the time we got done with all this stuff. And I looked at her and I said, you know that the Lord was with us every step of the way. And she goes, even in Boston? I go, yeah, add up 1313 equals 8. He was there every step of the way. And if I hadn't learned anything else, I've learned that we can overcome anything. Anything. And it was a hard one. But I'm grateful for it because I realize that I'm a lot stronger, a lot more resilient than I ever thought I could be.
Kind of back to that last question, and kind of to the achievement or the great moment question, when is a time when you have clearly sensed that the Lord used you? Like I know that I got this inkling and I followed through on it and I can just see the fruit of it.
You'd think I'd know. But I don't yet. I'm still just trying to get stronger each day, and I'm trying to understand more throughout. Our faith journey has been really dynamic. It's amazing how so many of the Nashville's a really faith-based community. And there's mega churches all over the place, and there's amazing, denominations, and there's non-denominational churches, and everything is just like, it's just robust, and there's so many options. And it seemed like when we spend any time in a church and we get invested, something would happen in the church, and it would just sort of like fall apart, and people would get upset, and I'd say, well, where's Jesus in all of this? It's like, why are you so mad at each other? Why don't you just, and it would just like, okay, well, then we try to plug into another church, and we finally walked into, brace yourselves, we walked into an Orthodox church. And it was so different than anything we've ever experienced. And we just felt like we were home. It was really unexpected. Because if you've been to an Orthodox church, it's very ceremonial, and it's the liturgies, and it's very interactive. And so we went through the catechumen thing and learned a lot. And it just feels like, never in a million years would I ever think that I would be a part of something like that. But that's where we are now, and it's really been life-giving and life-affirming, but I don't necessarily think it's for everyone. I got a gentleman coming out of church the other day. He goes, I need to talk to you, and he was very upset with me for like, why here? And I was like, it just feels like home. I don't know. I never expected it, but it just feels like home, and I love the leadership, and I love their open hand approach, and I love so much of it. And he goes, but, and I go, I understand. I go, but it's like all we can do is the best we can. And I found out later on it was his son converted, and he was of a different denomination, and he was not happy. And I guess he wasn't happy with me either. But we don't know. We just don't know. And I think what we do is we just try to do the best we can. And I think, God created us. Yeah. We're human beings. We're not perfect. Yeah. There's nothing about us that's perfect. Like everything is either a challenge, or there's, it's we don't like something about ourselves. Like the last thing I'd ever want to be is tall, dark, and handsome. Like, what a nightmare. It's like, I like being short, bald, and struggling a little bit with a dad bod. But, it just comes down to doing the best we can, trying to figure out where we're being led. Because we are being led. But it's hard to sometimes recognize the wavelength, right? And, one of the things that I notice is, like, again, what I started to say earlier, if you feel something, an urge. There was a lady, I was in line at the grocery store, and there a lady in front of me was wearing a scarf because she'd lost all her hair to chemotherapy. I can recognize, I've been around cancer a long time. And she was, getting through her purse, and I could tell that she was shaking, and she was just not feeling good. And I said, ma'am, I'm going to buy your groceries. And she said, oh, no, you're not. And I said, I'm a cancer survivor. Let me do this. And she said, well, I go, no, please. You'd bless me if you'd let me do this. And she said, well, okay. And so I bought her groceries, and then I paid for mine, and the bill was $88.87. Okay. But it's just trying to listen. There are some times where we feel like, I really want to do something nice for that person, but I don't want to feel inappropriate. Yeah. Well, the reason you feel that way is because there's somebody whispering in your ear, saying, wouldn't that be a nice thing to do that? Wouldn't that be a good thing to be? Just help that person. And it's remarkable that, you have memories like that. I still remember the scarf that lady was wearing on her head, and I pray that she survived.
Cool. Questions? Dan's got a mic there, right here in the back. That's my uncle Dave Reisetter. Let's go, Dave. What do you got?
Dave. Wait, I can't hear you.
We're going to get you a mic. Hang on.
There she comes. It's like Phil Donahue. Remember Phil Donahue running down the aisles?
Right here.
I think skating has really evolved over the years where, at one time they probably thought a triple was was the max. You know, now we see a quad. Do you think we will ever see a quick?
Yes.
Wow.
No, I mean, what they're doing now, when I learned to skate, it was you jump up into the air and then you rotate. Now, the second that they leave the ice, they're rotating already. So it's a whole different jumping technique. I never thought in my life I'd see a quadruple axel. And Ilya Malinin has perfected the quadruple axel. It's so swish. It's so perfect. It's like, really? His parents are both his coaches, and they said, don't do it. It's suicide. And he said, no, I think I can do this. And so he started landing quad axel, and that's only a half a turn from a quint. And the quad is he's done so early that it makes you think that you could probably get another half a rotation out of this thing if you needed to. So I think that there's a couple guys, Shadarov, who won the gold medal in the Olympics. He's the only one that really stood up on the night. He could probably do one. Malinin is probably a little bit ahead of him in just doing these things. Like I saw a social media post from Shadarov doing quad-toe combination. That's just sick and twisted. That just is wrong. But no human being should be able to do stuff like that. He opened his program this year with triple axel, half loop, quad sow. He's doing the quad sow in the back half of a 3-jump combination. Yeah, quints are definitely going to be a probability. There's going to be a lot of injuries, but once somebody figures out just how to get around that next turn, and they've got room, I think a quint is very possible. But the problem I see is that it's going to break down a lot of bodies. It's going to hurt a lot of people because the equipment is still basically leather and whale bones. You know, it's come up a little bit, but not nearly what it needs to withstand that kind of power and pressure and torque. That's a good question.
Of all the things I expected this week, my uncle having a technical ice skating conversation with Scott Hamilton was not on the list.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah.
Okay, who's got another question? Right here. Keith. Becky, you're next.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Scott. Personally, you've uplifted my spirit here because I'm dealing with some radiation treatments at the moment. But where were you when you first heard the gospel? Was it through your wife or was it before that? And how did that happen? What happened to you?
So my parents, when I came home, they were very involved in our local Presbyterian church, and Reverend Emery was a dear friend of the family. He officiated both my parents' funerals. I go to Sunday school, and I'd hear these beautiful stories, and then I started skating, and then church kind of went away because skating was on Sunday morning, because that was the ice time. We didn't have ice time, normal hours. So. With everything with the hospitals and everything else went through, the church thing just sort of got shelved. And, but I always felt somehow that, I always felt like there was something more. And when I went to skate in Illinois, when I went to train in Illinois for 6 months of the year, Janet Lynn was the national champion, world medalist, probably the most popular woman athlete in the world at that time. And she was a devout Christian, evangelist Christian. She was very, very vocal in her faith, and she would go around the world and she would talk about her relationship with Jesus. And everybody in the rink wanted to be like Janet because she was awesome. And so everybody went to her church. Everybody wanted to dress like her. Everybody wanted to be like her. And I'm this knucklehead 13-year-old kid that had, I'm away from home for the first time, and I'm the youngest one there. My roommates the first summer were all 18 years old and older, so I was introduced to a lot of things that was pretty heady for a 13-year-old boy. But the whole idea of Christianity, the dormitory for the skating center was in the basement of a rustic lodge, like a resort. So there were Gideon's Bibles in every bedside table. And so I decided if I wanted to be like everybody else and like Janet, I'd have to start reading. And so I started at the beginning. And I didn't understand. And then I started listening to music. It was interesting because it put sort of faith in a different mindset where it wasn't so much God creating us in his image. It was now us creating God in our image to do things for us instead of us doing things for him. So I got a little bit sort of sideways on that, but I did feel like I desperately wanted a relationship. So I don't think I've ever talked about this publicly so much, but I found a rock on the horse trails of this resort in the middle of a trail and back in the woods, kind of away from everybody. And I climbed up on top of this rock, and for the next hour, I just prayed. I just wanted connection. Just, please, Lord, just connect with me. I just connect with me. I just want to know who you are. I need to know you're who you are. I want to be with you. And so I remember that vividly, because after that, things just sort of started changing a little bit. And I can look at that as sort of the fork in the road for me, that I took the right fork, but I didn't have people around me that were going to guide me. Like all the people that were at the rink wanted to be like Janet, but they weren't really good at evangelizing people or sharing the gospel. They just wanted to be like Janet, And Janet was amazing. I love her so much. To this day, I love Janet and everything that she stood for. But it wasn't until I'd pray all the time. I didn't know a lot about Jesus, but I did pray to God all the time. When Sergei Grinkov died, he was a Russian skater. They won the 88 and 94 Olympics. When I talked to him 5 minutes before he dropped on the ice and succumbed. Wow. I'll never get over it. But I remember looking into the rink and seeing him laying on the ice and just finding an empty locker room and just praying, God, don't do this. There's nothing good can come out of this. What is this? Lord, please don't. I'd pray. And I realized that there was something happening in that. And that's the next year I have cancer. And then I went on a search of just self. And it was there when I met my wife. And it was the Lord that thumped my heart. Do you know what she said to her cousin on the way home from the show after meeting me when I thought she was Tony's date? She said, I talked to Scott after the show, and her cousin Gina said, oh, what's he like? And she said, he's the type of man I see myself marrying someday. So that just doesn't happen. There's something there that there's the spirit in the room, the Lord working, just always in all of us, uniquely, and for his purposes. And his ways are not our ways, his thoughts are not our thoughts. But renewing our minds is the best way to kind of start figuring out a way to see him in the quiet and odd moments where we feel lost or untethered, to become part of the vine, and abide, not strive, abide. He never tells us to strive for him. He tells us to abide in him. And that's a muscle of its own kind, because it goes against everything about this world that says strive. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. Becky, we'll do like 2 more questions after this.
You bet. Scott, you're married and you have 2 boys, and I'd love to hear
Three
about...
boys.
3 boys.
And a daughter.
Oh, sorry. I just remember the one picture.
I have 2 brown ones.
Got it. Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. I should have paid more attention. No,
They're awesome.
Just wanted to hear more about how, what you've learned from the Lord in parenthood as a dad, and how your faith has impacted your family.
That's a really good question. I think we live by example. Like when I was growing up, my parents were college professors, and they were wonderful people, but they had a Monday night drinking club, where they'd all come and they'd make orange blossoms in the blender and they'd have fun and people would get a little lit. And so I thought that was normal, There was a lot of things that, I saw, and I realized that from what I saw at coaches, from skating parents, from my parents, I saw them, just sort of living in ways that they wouldn't want their children living. Does that make sense? So don't do as I do as I say is not a great way to be, right? Like, that's not what Jesus did. He went to the cross. It's like, oh my goodness. He did that for us. We're not worthy of that. I mean, it's like, it's like Paul talks about it a lot, You might die for a good person, but you're not going to die for somebody that's unworthy, and we're sinners, So when I became a father, I decided that I was going to model the behavior that I'd want and expect from them. So my son never heard me say a bad word, never saw me take a drink. Like, we'd go up to roadblocks, where they're doing checkpoints for drunk drivers. And I go, this is going to be fun, guys. And so I go up to the police officer, and I go, how you doing, officer? You catch anybody yet? And he's like leaning into the window. He goes, have you had anything to drink? I go, I can't touch this stuff. Can't touch it. And no. And he goes, I don't smell anything. I go, and you won't. And so we'd leave, and he'd wait. And I go, you know why I'll never get pulled over for drunk driving? And my oldest son said, because you don't drink. And I go, bingo. So I'd always try to model it for them. But when it comes to all of that, I stopped skating because my son was born, and I wanted to be a good father. And on his senior year of high school, that's a fun one. He sits me down and he goes, Dad, I need to talk to you about something. And I said, anything. Talk to me about anything. What's up? And he goes, I need to talk to you about spring break. And I'm thinking, okay, does he want to go to Sodom or Gomorrah? Right? I mean, they're kids. They're seniors. They're going to launch. I mean, this is what they do, right? Whatever. And he goes, no. I go, I just wanted to talk to you about spring break. And I go, what do you want to talk about? He goes, where do you want to go? Those investments of time made my son on his senior year spring break want to go somewhere with his dad. That's a win. Amen. Like no other, that's a win. And my youngest son now is, like, his best friend is Ilya Malinin, and he's invested in skating. He wants to see skating be more popular than it's ever been, and he's trying to figure out ways of doing that. So, model things, and you live in a way that, lets your kids know that this is a good way, and that's not really. And they see their friends doing things and getting in trouble or getting stuck or, making the big bad mistake. And they go, okay, this seems safer and better and stronger and wiser, so I'm going to stay here. And I think that's the best thing we can do, and we worship a perfect Lord, 3 in 1. And it's unthinkable. I mean, how do we understand that? But each and every one of us have a unique relationship with him as we do with our own children. It's not cookie cutter. It's unique, and it's ours. And my relationship with him is way different than yours or anybody here. It's just we have to lean into the relationship, wanting it to work, right? And I think as long as we do what we're told, and as long as we see, and there's a lot of brokenness in the Bible. My goodness, look at all of it. It's just, really? There's incest, and there's like all this crazy death and murder, and it's violent at times. But you look at it and it goes, that doesn't work. But this does. And he models it for us. That's what a good father does. And I look at the life of Jesus. And I'm glad that I didn't know him before I was an adult, because I was ready to understand, and I had a lot to compare it to. And so coming to faith and love of Jesus older was the best thing for me, and I think God knows that. And I think Jesus knows it too. I'm going to get you when I'm going to get you. And it'll be on my time, our time. Yeah.
Last question.
What's your favorite Bible verse and why?
What's your favorite Bible verse and why?
There's two. Just looking at how invasive and pervasive and broken the world is, John 16:33. When I read that, it's like, well, I want, he's my quarterback, you know? Jesus said, I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world, you will have trouble.
Amen.
But take heart, I have overcome the world.
Amen. That's a good one.
And then the other one is in Timothy, and it's Paul. And he said, Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am the worst. But for this very reason, I was shown mercy, so that in me, the worst of sinners, Christ Jesus might display his immense patience for those who would believe in him and receive eternal life. So those jump off the page.
Yeah.
You know, and I think about that, and we all can look at our lives as, but I'm unworthy. I'm a sinner. I made mistakes. I've done horrible things. Yeah, but that's the world. So there's two things. One, Jesus overcame the world. I'm going to cleave onto him. And the other is, even if you're the worst of sinners, he's still going to love you. Amen. You're going to get grace and mercy. And one of the most fun things I learned, and it's kind of like baby Bible stuff, is the difference between grace and mercy. Knowing the difference and accepting it is really amazing. You know, mercy is not getting something you deserve, and grace is getting something you don't deserve. And living in that tension is really fun and challenging because you can't lose.
Yeah.
You know, it's just all win. And so looking at, you know, just the life I've lived, and I've done things that, of course, you know, we always regret. I always call it game show remorse. Like I used to do television game shows, and I'd be driving home from the game show, and I'd say, I didn't think of that. And I'd hit my forehead on the steering wheel. And by the time I got home, I had a big bruise on my steering wheel because I didn't do that. I should have known that answer. Why did I give that clue? And then you come home with a bruise on your forehead, and it's like, well, that's dumb. But just spending time with the Word, and just spending time with other people that are just seeking a stronger and deeper relationship is beautiful. And it's life-giving and life-affirming, and it just allows us to step into this broken world. And I stopped watching the news. Okay? Here's the deal. And I'm not telling you what to do. But as soon as I found out that 6 guys own the news of the world, give me the Bible. Because that stood the test of time. And there are people who are going to try to tear it apart and say, well, this didn't happen, and this person didn't write that, and that's okay. They can do that. But at some point, they're going to run out of excuses. But, you know, the news is curated and it's propaganda. But spending time in the Word is something that builds muscle and strength and power in the storm. The world is always going to be broken. Amen. It's always going to be what it is. And there's going to be a lot of evil people doing nasty things. And all you can do is just shore yourself up, and just hopefully they'll run out of gas and they'll come over to our side. But we're supposed to love them no matter what.
Amen. What are 1 or 2 things you'd like us to pray for you about?
Oh, man. Pray for me. As much as I try to tell you I'm a good father, my son had ACL surgery this morning.
Wow.
And I wanted to be there because I've never missed a big moment in his life. And he was like, Dad, you've got to go. I go, can you change the surgery because I have to be in Iowa? And he goes, no, you go. You need to be there. You need a thing. I'm fine. I got Mom. I've got a bunch of people around me. I'm going to be good. And it's like, but this is a big deal, and I don't want to be a bad dad. So he's good. His surgery was perfect. The surgeon was texting me today when I was working out in the gym, and it's going to be great. He's training to fight in the UFC. Don't judge. My dad was a PhD professor of biology, and his son strapped knives to his feet and wore spandex for a living. We don't have a choice. So, but he's way more dedicated than I was. Wow. I mean, he's scary. I don't I mean, I don't discipline him anymore because he'll choke me out. I'll be unconscious laying on the kitchen floor. So, but, I guess just pray for safety and that, the Lord has been so good to us. We've been going through a change in life and we need to downsize as we always do, and we finally found a buyer for our home. And that's been a huge stress on our family. But now it seems like we're going to be able to step into the next. But if anything, just pray for strength, pray for the words when I need them. Pray for, just the strength of my family, my Haitian children, because they suffer. They struggle because of what they grew up in and what they were imprinted, how they were imprinted. And I'd say, if anything, pray for Jean-Paul and Eveline the most. And then just that we can just live this life. I'm doing the math, My mom died at 49. Wow. My dad died at 65. And I've had a lot more birthdays than they did. So I realized that my hourglass might be a little deeper. But I'm so grateful for the parents that the Lord provided me, and for the trials He's seen me through. And so if you pray for me, pray for each other, and pray for yourselves, because that's where the strength is. There's storms going on constantly, and they're never ending. Why is it warmer than it's ever been? Why is it? That's just the world. It has its cycles and its seasons, and the world's going to be fine. We probably won't be, but the world's going to be okay. It's going to find a way to heal itself. But in the meantime, let's just, live our lives joyfully, productively, faithfully. I have the 9 fruits of the Spirit on my wall, and I look at it every day. I highly recommend it. Go on Amazon. It's super cheap, and just get a cheap frame for it. But to live in intentionality of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control isn't a bad way to start each day. But God bless you all, and thank you for having me.
I'm going to say a prayer, and then we'll be done. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for bringing Scott to Iowa. Thank you for his willingness to leave even his son's surgery, and just thankful that surgery went well. Pray that you continue to help him to be a good father. And we pray in particular for his Haitian kids, Jean-Paul and Eveline, that you would meet their needs, that you would minister to them in whatever way they need ministered to. Pray that you'd bless Scott, his family, keep them safe, bless his travels. One of the things that's come up all week long is just what each of us is called to do and how we should be living in our lane. We just pray that you'd make that clear to Scott day by day, give him the words to say, give him the nudge from your Spirit, and use him to be a effective tool in your hand, an effective ambassador for Christ. And we pray it in Jesus' name. Amen. Scott has been super accommodating. I didn't know about the knee until just now, ACL. Down to earth, just a joy to host. Thank you so much.
I'm a lot closer to the earth than most people. So.
God bless you guys. Hope to see you at breakfast. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
The CC Podcast is part of Christian Crusaders radio and internet ministry, started in 1936 and is one of America's longest-running radio ministries. We are 100% donor-funded, and donations to our ministry are 100% tax-deductible. So if you are encouraged, challenged, or inspired by today's conversation, please consider making a donation on our website, christiancrusaders.org, or mail a check to Christian Crusaders, 7401 University Avenue, Cedar Falls, Iowa, 50613. In addition to our other podcasts, which I mentioned at the front of this episode,